folks, I'm Vasel,
Jason Levine.
and today we're taking a look at a new game from Lookout/Mayfair Games called Grand Austria Hotel. Now, for me, and I don't know, I think for you too, Lookout has a pretty high success rate.
Very much so. Very much so. I like the Lookout games a lot.
Right. I mean, now a lot of their games have been done by Uwe Rosenberg, which this one is not. It's done by two designers. I don't actually know a lot about their other games, if they have any, but still, it's Lookout.
It is.
So we went into it assuming it would be good. Were we right? Let's find out. There's a lot going on in this game, but let's start by talking about how you get points. At the beginning of the game, you're going to put 3 different cards here, A, B, and C, and these cards are going to be different each game. And as the game goes by, the first person to accomplish whatever the card says. So, for example, the first person to fill 4 blue rooms and 3 red rooms is going to get 15 points. The next person to do so will get 10 points. So you have different goals that you're trying to get over the course of the game. There's also a Emperor's Track here, and different things are going to move your piece on the Emperor's Track. And there's going to be 3 scoring periods. This is the rounds of the game. At the end of round 3, 5, and 7, there will be a scoring period, and wherever you are on that track, at the bottom of the track, you'll see there's a number here that shows how much you will score. Also, players can score and or lose points. You are going to move back a certain number of spaces. So on turn 3, you'll move back 3 spaces, and if you're still in the yellow golden area here after moving backwards, you'll get the bonus up here. And if you are in the bottom area, if you are in the black area, which means you've gone all the way back to the beginning, you'll get the bottom part. So you can see in the bottom part, you're going to have to put cards down, or you're going to lose 5 points. Here you're going to lose 2 rooms or lose 7 points, lose 10 points, and up here you can put something out for free. So there's benefits and disadvantages. You're also going to be, over the course of the game, attracting guests to you. And when a guest comes and you fulfill the needs of that guest, you're going to get points from that guest. And then finally, each person's going to have their own hotel, and you're going to get you're going to get points for each room that you fill. The points are equal to the level that the room is on, while some rooms, as soon as you actually get them ready for occupancy, they have points on them, so you can get points from those also. And then there's even other ways to score points if you fill a whole block of blue rooms up here. So there's really many different ways to get points, but let's talk about now how the game actually plays. Now, depending on the number of players, you're going to hand out these cards here. So, for example, if this is a 4-player game, one person's going to go 1st and 8th, and then the next person goes 2nd and 7th, the next person 3rd and 6th, and the next person 4th and 5th. So it's Bob, Susan, Sally, Ted, Susan, Sally, Bob. Now, if you were playing with a 3-player game, you would have the same thing, except it would be 1 and 6, 2 and 5, and 3 and 4. And with a 2-player game, just 1 and 4 and 2 and 3. So what you're going to do is whoever goes first is going to roll all these dice. After they've rolled all the dice, they're going to put these dice underneath the numbers that were rolled. So let me put the numbers like this. There was a 3. Here's a bunch of 5s here, some 6s, and a 4. When it's your turn, so player 1 here can pick one of these dice. Let's say he takes, oh, that's a 1. Let's say he takes this 3 here, and he'll put it here to show that he's taken his action. When he takes the 3, he'll count the number of dice here. That's how many times he can take that action. Players are allowed to pay $1 to take the action one more time than normal. And players can also take the 6s. This is kind of a wild. You pay $1 to do that, and then you can do any of the actions from 1 to 5. Now, actions 1 and 2 give you the main resources of the game. The game comes with strudel, cake, wine, and coffee, the 4 resources here. So, for example, if I took this die here, I would get 2 of my choice, but I can't take more wine than coffee. So I could take a coffee and a wine, or I could take 2 coffee. Those would be my choices there. If I paid the extra $1 to get 3, I could take a coffee and 2 coffees and a wine, or 3 coffees. Those are my choices. If you go here, you have a chance to open up new rooms in your hotel. Each room is going to have a cost on it. The cost of the room and you'll be able to pick blue, yellow, and red. The only rules are at the beginning of the game, each player is going to start with 3 of the rooms that are open. These are open rooms, so let's say I start with these 3. The only rule is that you have to be adjacent to a room that you've already put out. And the cost to put out a room, to open a room, is equal to whatever number's in front of the row. So it's free on the bottom row, $1, $2, and $3 to go to higher rows to open those rooms. Here, I can move on that Emperor's track I showed you earlier, or you can get more money, depending on the number of 4s. You can mix and match those if you want, and each player will have a disc here that they keep track of how much money they have over the course of the game. In the 5th spot, you have a chance to play servant cards. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to have servant cards. You can draw them randomly. Some of the cards have letters in the corner, so you can start with predetermined sets, or you can draft them. When you play a servant card, each card has a cost, although each die here reduces that cost by 1. So this card would be free if I took this action. Some of the cards give you special abilities that you can use. Like this person here, whenever they close a room, they get $1. Some cards can only be used once per turn. Some cards at the end of the game, for example, this person gets 1 point for every closed room. Some cards give points at the end of the game. This card here, whenever I take a number 1 or 2 die action, it's as if I have another 1 or 2. This one here is a one-time action, simply gives me 4 brown cubes. Here at the end of the game, I'm going to get 2 points for every servant I put down. Here, 3 points for every yellow room I've set down. So players are going to be, you'll get some of these cards at the beginning. You might get more. As far as I can tell, every single card is different. Some are similar but have different abilities on them. Here, every turn, I can take a wine for free, or every round. So getting servant cards out is a big deal. Now, before a player takes their action, they actually have to take one of these guests here and put it into their hotel if they have an empty spot. Each player has 3 spots to put guests, and each of the guests here is a different color, which means they're looking for a specific room, red, yellow, or blue. Green guests can go anywhere. Each guest has a certain number of requirements for them to be fed to go to a room. They'll give you a certain amount of points, and they might possibly, this one doesn't, but the other ones will give you a bonus also when you complete them. So maybe, for example, I'll take this guy on my turn. I'll place him down here at one of my tables. I don't want to have him there at the end of the game. You'll lose points for anybody who's still at one of your tables. But as the game goes by, as I collect the resources I need for this guy, I can put them directly on the card. I can also pay $1 to move up to 3 goods from my kitchen, which is where I have to put any goods if I get, maybe I get some more coffee. No one needs it, so I stick it in there. I can pay $1 to put 3 on the characters. Once they're all there, I'll remove the goods, take them back to the supply. I'll immediately score this many points. I'll be able to, if I have an open red room on my board, so let's assume I had an open red room here, I would close it, which is going to score me points at the end of the game, and this guy would give me a bonus. In this case, he gives me $4. Whenever you take someone here, you have to pay the cost at the bottom, and when someone's taken, all the rest move over, and so you're going to have this constant flow of guests coming out. And you can see the guests have all sorts of special abilities. This guy here gives you a coffee and move 2 on the Emperor's track. This one here lets you flip over an additional room and move 3 on the Emperor's track. This one here lets you play a servant card for free. This one here gives you 5 money. This lets you take another guest for free. This one here lets you draw 2 more servant cards into your hand. Move 1 on the Emperor's track. Get an extra money. Put 3 servant cards in your hand. Play a servant card for 2 less and take a white cube. So there's all sorts of benefits and things that you can get. After every player has taken 2 turns of taking a servant and then taking a die action, then we move the round marker to the next. There will be intermediate scoring here, and at the end of the game, you'll do final scoring, keeping an eye on this and all the other ways to score, and whoever has the most points is the winner. All right, were we right?
Yes, we were. When I saw the title of this, the first thing I thought of was the Grand Budapest Hotel movie, and that they obviously couldn't get the rights, so they just called it the Grand Austria Hotel.
Do you think it's based on that theme?
Not really. I mean, a little bit, but the movie was a very different kind of movie than this. The movie was a heist caper movie, but this isn't truly a heist caper. It's more inviting guests in. But this game is a great game. I like many of the flavors in the game. I like the concept of having guests, having to put your guests into rooms, having to have workers that give you powers. I've got a better maid, so my maid cleans the rooms quicker and is able to get the customers in quicker. I like it really feels like you're running a hotel in this.
Yeah, I agree. The theme I thought was pretty strong. I mean, the only thing I thought I laughed about was like, you have someone come to your cafe, they enjoy the meal, so now they're going to stay at your hotel. I just thought that was funny, but it works. And I like how some people are very demanding. They want a lot of food, but then they will give you a good reward.
Yes.
So let's talk about some of the mechanisms. The first is the main mechanism of the game is the dice selection mechanism. This is not new to this game, I don't believe.
No, it sort of evoked memories of Ispahan for me, but in a very different way because you're taking one die out. So the amount of dice is your power, but then you pull one die away and someone else could do the same action. I really like that mechanic because everything gets weaker and weaker as you go along. So being the first player might be great, but then you're also the 8th player because it goes
and
around.
And a 4th player, right? You're the last.
And then back around. So you get the first action, but then there's going to be a lot of dice missing, and you get the last action with a lot less dice. So you really have to plan carefully in this.
But I also liked in that same aspect that the 6s were essentially wild.
Yes.
You have to pay $1, and you can pay $1 to basically go up a die too. So you want that one extra resource, especially in those 2 first slots where you can't take more of one resource than another. And they definitely have done that across the cards. When you see what the customers want, they want those more expensive the ones that you can get fewer of.
Yes, they do, and well, the better customers do. There's some cheap customers come in and go, oh yeah, just give me a Danish and I'm good to go.
But cheap customers are cheap.
They are cheap, but you need some of those too because you want to just fill those rooms. And filling the rooms I found was very important because you're kind of playing a little Tetris-y game with the rooms where the rooms are in different blocks based on color, and you need to fill in blocks to achieve certain goals and unlock bonus points. So you really need to pay attention to how many rooms you get as well, and it's just well balanced. It was well playing game, very very good game as usual.
One thing I really enjoy about the game is the variety in it. From the fact that players can have different boards, to the fact that every game, the goals you're trying to get, which are important, those are a lot of points, those are changing, and then also the positive and negative benefits at the end of each scoring round will change. And your handful of cards. Now, we played with the initial
starting
cards,
hand.
but drafting is the way to go because you want to draft that. Those cards are so critical to your success.
Yes. I would draft every time now because some of those cards, some of those workers, like you might have a maid who helps you in the ones where it gives you +1. I had a card where it gave me +1 die to the 1 and 2s, which are where you get your different kinds of goods that you're giving out, like the cakes and everything else, the Danishes, whatever they were called in the game. While another one might be something for victory points at the end of the game. So in the early game, you kind of want to have some that give you better powers that helps with whatever. If you pick a die from the 4 column, you get to use double benefit on the 4 column or whatever. But then at the end, you want to have some victory point ones because you're going to need those victory points also.
One thing I liked about the game also was that there was always something to do on your turn. I never sat there and thought, oh, sometimes I'd be like, oh, I really want to open up a room and there's no dice for that. But there was always a decision I could make. I'm like, oh, I'll just play a card this turn. Oh, I'll take some resources. And at first I thought, well, fulfilling these customers is going to take a while, but you can really do that quickly.
Yes. Fulfilling the customers goes quick. The biggest thing you have to watch out is money. Money's very tight in it.
It doesn't seem like it at the beginning.
Well, for me, it was tight.
No, but I mean,
everyone else seemed like they had a lot of money.
No. It just seemed that way.
I saw that one of the other people we were playing with had like $14. And I'm like, wow, how do you have $14? The most I ever had was 11 at one point. And I felt it was tight, and I felt like you really have to manage it because to take that 6 die, like Tom said, he couldn't build rooms, but he could have taken a 6 die to build rooms. You have to pay 1 in order to use the 6 die.
But then you got to pay money to put those rooms out too, so you got to be careful. There's a lot of factors that go into that. Now, there's one thing I was not as keen on, and that is the game does have some downtime because players can have to do a couple things in their turn. They're taking a person, so they're going to pay. Ooh, I want that one. Once they take the person, they're then going to take their action. And then with their action, they can then possibly fulfill a customer and put that customer in a room, which might give them a bonus. And if you are first, that's exciting, Jason said. You get a great choice. Then in a 4-player game, you got to wait all the way. Everyone goes around the table and come all the way back.
Yes.
And because of that, I'll gladly play the game with 4 players. It's fine, but the downtime is more considerable. A 2 to 3 player game is much snappier. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 5, 4, 3, 2.
Yes, I agree.
I'm sorry, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's back. And in a 2-player game, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. I love that. And it does seem like Lookout Games often makes these. I'm starting to notice that almost all their Euro games play really well with 2. It seems that way. I like Le Havre and all those other games. They're like really fun with 2.
Verna, they all play well in 2. And this one I think would play very well in 2 as well. Because you have less dice. You don't use all the dice. When there's less players, you use less dice, so it still equals out.
It does. So, what's the awesomeness rating?
Awesomeness rating, 7.
7? I think I might go a little higher than that myself. With a 7.5, I thought the theme was really well done. I wasn't sure how, but I love having powers and cards that no one else has. It invoked a little bit of that Marco Polo thing, like there's one card I never have to pay to serve my people. That's a big deal. Well, it's not a huge deal, but it feels like a big deal, right?
Yes.
You feel like, I'm doing something no one else can do. And then there's lots of different ways to score. Solid game. So
Very solid.
That's the Grand Austria Hotel.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.